Hey, it's Vas here from Metro Hobbies, and today we're going to be looking at another behemoth of an RC. This is the ARRMA Outcast 8S. So let's take a closer look at it and see what it's all about. Right, so here we are with the car out of the box, as you can see, and it is absolutely huge. It also weighs quite a bit as well. Now, of course, when you get one of these, you get the car fully assembled and ready to go. You get the handheld radio, and of course, you get a little bag with manuals and some goodies. There's also some stickers in here, which you can use to further decorate the truck, or you can put them on your toolbox, stick them on the wall, whatever you want. There's a tool in here to help remove the wheels. There's also a couple of plastic bits and a special tool to remove one of the E-clips that are inside the truck. You get the usual big manual that has all the maintenance schedules and parts and components and all that. There's also a little leaflet in here with exploded views and so forth. So if you are out in the field, you just want to keep this in your toolbox, and if something happens to the truck, you can quickly look up the exploded view, find the part number you need to replace your broken part, and away you go. You can start ordering that. So the radio itself is actually a really good radio. It's a much, I suppose, welcome improvement from the original radio that came with the Creighton 8S when it was first released. This is the DX3, which runs on 4 AA's, has a really good feel in the hand. This is a really, really nice radio. I really like this one. It's probably one of the best radios the Spektrum has released, to be honest. Really nice foam wheel, which is not overly big at all. No collapsible antennas or anything like that for anybody to snap off. You have the usual reverse trimmings on the back here. You have a throttle limiter switch, which basically goes from 50% to 75% and then 100%. So if you're fairly new to the hobby, or you're not sure about this one, how fast it's going to be or how much power it's going to have, you can start off on the 50%, then move up to 75, and then eventually go to 100. Or if you just want to lend the car briefly to somebody that's a bit less experienced, just a quick flick of the switch there, and it becomes a little bit more tame for that person. So really good thing to have. There's also 4 LED lights on the side here. This gives you an indication of how much battery you've actually got left in the car as you're running it. So a quick glance at the radio and you'll know exactly how much time you've got left, or roughly anyway. So again, another really cool feature. Now there's 4 dials across the side of the radio here. One is the throttle trim, which you don't really touch. The other one is the steering trim, which is just basically to align your wheels, as you probably know. There's also a brake rate, which I've not seen before. This is a really cool feature, obviously to adjust the strength of the brakes on the truck. And then you've got the steering dual rate, which is actually the AVC knob. Now, AVC stands for Active Vehicle Control, which is essentially a gyro. And that AVC controls both the steering and the throttle. This allows the car to drive when you punch the throttle and just pull that trigger as hard as you can. The receiver has a gyro built in that controls both the throttle and the steering, keeping the car in a perfectly straight line. So the idea is, if you're on a loose surface like a hard gravel BMX track or something like that, you can just punch the throttle and the truck should just drive perfectly straight, depending on how much of this AVC you want to influence the performance of the car. So you can turn that down to the point where it's basically off and you're in full control of the car, or you can turn it up and then the AVC does a lot of the work for you. So, this can be good if you're trying to race your friends. Turn it up a little bit, cheat a little bit, and that helps you kind of keep the car in a straight line, especially when you're coming out of a corner. Or you can turn it down and just go full ball and, enjoy the truck for what it is, and you'll be in full control. There's also a bind button here on the side. There's a little switch here just on the handle. Now, this I don't believe is activated on the truck, but it's there in case you want to hook something up to it, and that's pretty much it. That's the remote. So really, really nice remote. Okay, so moving on to the main course of this video, which is of course the truck itself. And as you can see, just having it in front of me, this is a huge truck. It's probably about the same size as the X-Max, to be honest with you, but it is a little bit wider. It has a different stance, and having the spoiler and the big wheelie bar on the back definitely gives it a different presence to what a lot of people would be used to. The body itself has a very extensive, comprehensive roll cage on top here. There's also some skid plates, I guess, on top of the roof in case you roll upside down and slide along the concrete. This helps protect the truck. There's also these little holes inside the actual roll cage. These have been sort of carried over from the original Outcast when it was released about 3 years ago now. These are like for little flint holes. So if you have like lighter flints, you can stick them in here. And if you deliberately slide on concrete and have the truck upside down, it will actually have sparks on the ground. So really cool thing to do, especially at night. I've seen some videos of that. Very, very cool feature that ARRMA have implemented with these bodies. The body itself has a bit of weight to it, also a fair amount of thickness. This is not a lightweight body. This is a heavy-duty body. Really love the color. I love the detail that they've gone through on this as well. Underneath, you'll see there's actually some reinforcement for the roll cage as well. What you're hearing are the body clips which are tethered on with these little rubber sort of stretchy tethers to stop the body clips from going missing. Don't recommend pulling on the body clips from the body post using these. These are here just to hold the body pin. If you rely on these to pull the body pin out of the body post, you'll likely tear through them. So I don't recommend doing that. Be sure to grab the actual body pin itself when removing it from the body post. And here it is with the body off. Oh God, it does weigh a bit. It is a big truck. It's definitely, you know, they're advertised this as a 5th scale, so there's a lot of heavy duty components here. And then as we flip it over to the other side as well, you can see they've got an etched chassis, and there's also these little ridges and everything that goes on the chassis. This is done deliberately to add some additional strength. So this gives the chassis some vertical lines, thus giving it some additional strength. There's a little brace on the back here, which we'll give you a close-up of as well. This brace also adds to the strength and integrity of the chassis. These big bread bars that you see here, this is designed again to stop chassis flex. There are 2 going into the main center transmission, and then another 2 that go onto the center tower brace here. So this actually locks in to that roll cage on the body, and the whole thing kind of works together to keep the truck really nice and rigid. And even if you do flip it upside down, everything is protected. The body's just not going to concave in on the truck because of its own weight. It's going to have support here. So that's the idea behind that. Really beefy, massive shocks on this. You've got, I think these are 5mm shock shafts, huge front bumper on here. It's got a nice little rear bumper as well. Beefy wing mount on the back here. The wheelie bar, of course, for those of you that want to do wheelies and so forth, is there for that application. This is advertised as a stunt truck after all. So being a 5th scale stunt truck, it wouldn't be a stunt truck without a wheelie bar. The rear spoiler has also been, fairly beefed up compared to what you'd find on 1/8 scale. And even on top of the wheelie bar, on top of the spoiler, you will see that there's actually a couple of bolts here to protect the spoiler from when it's scraping on the ground. So a nice little touch there from ARRMA as well. Really nice beefy front and rear arms. The drive shafts themselves look to be about 6mm thick. The motor itself is a 1250 kV. I believe I will put the size on the screen because I can't remember the size of it off by heart, but really nice size motor. Big beefy fan on top of the heatsink that wraps around the motor. One of the cool features that ARRMA have done with these pinions, and I don't remember if the first Creighton 8S had this, but they've put a little capture pin, not a capture pin, a little E-clip on the end of the motor shaft to stop the pinion sliding out of the motor shaft. So even if it does become loose, it doesn't just come clean off and you don't lose your pinion and so forth. So again, another little nice touch that ARRMA have done there. This is the ARRMA 160 amp ESC. It's got a little cap pack on top here for some extra juice in reserve, and also helps prevent cogging and so forth at low speeds. And then of course you've got your IC5 connectors on here. So this is designed to run on 8S, so you put 2 4S batteries in here and connect them up with your IC5 connectors. IC5 is the name for these more modern connectors that Spektrum have bought out, but of course these are 100% compatible if you have EC5 connectors. So if you've got already 4S batteries that have EC5, they will plug straight in, no problem about that. Nice big servo saver at the front here, and it's a really interesting servo saver design that ARRMA have got, which is kind of like a barrel. It's a spring inside the actual barrel that kind of protects the servo, and that's mounted underneath, which then leads to the receiver box. So there's a cover that the ESC sits on top, and then underneath that is of course your receiver. The battery trays rather are adjustable as well, so you can actually make them a little bit longer. So if you've got exceptionally long batteries, you know, for those of you that want to run really big milliamps like 8,000, 9,000 milliamps, you can stretch out the battery trays so that the batteries can actually fit. Really nice thick battery straps on here to hold your batteries in place, so they shouldn't really go anywhere you know, when you're running the car. This is an exceptional machine. ARRMA did a really good job with this. They engineered this very nicely and made, for the most part, they made it as easy to work on as possible, given its size and scale and the type of engineering that's gone into it. For example, if you want to access certain components, a lot of these rods that are on here are just on with a locking pin, which has a body pin holding it in place. You can quickly pull that body pin out of there, slide the pin out, and the bar comes off. So you don't have to really have, you know, major tools to remove these bars if you want to access certain components. So little things like that make life a little bit easier for the hobbyist when they want to do some maintenance or repairs on the RC. So really good to see this. Of course, the tires themselves, something that you know, we also need to talk about. These are slightly oversized tires. They're just basically a bigger version of what you'd find on the 1/8 scale Outcast and Notorious. And a really cool feature on these tires is they've actually vented the tires. Now, for those of you that don't know, traditionally the wheels are the ones that are vented and the tires are fully sealed. The downside with that is when you're running in places like snow or you're running in through water and puddles and things, those holes can actually let water into the tire itself, and then once the water gets into the tire, your foams are pretty much going to be wrecked because the water gets in there, there's no way to escape. When they have the wheel that's sealed and the tires that are vented, even if water does get into the foams, the rotational force of the tire will eventually throw that water out through the little breather holes that the tire has got. So it's the opposite of having vented wheels. You have vented tires. So it's not like there's a fault with the tire. So you might think, oh my God, I've just got a new truck and I've already got a puncture on my tire. That's not the case. It's purposely done like that so that you don't have to worry about running this thing through water and having waterlogged wheels and tires. So that's the idea behind that. And I think that's pretty much covered everything that I guess you need to know about the Outcast 8S. It is an absolutely amazing machine. ARRMA did actually a really good job with this, and yeah, they've been available now for a little while, but I figured, you know, it's time to kind of show you and do a bit of a showcase here on the Metro Hobbies channel. So that's it for me, guys. Thank you all very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to hit that thumbs up button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're new. And as always, check out the video description. We'll have links in there to the ARRMA Outcast. We'll also have links in there to some 4S batteries if you want to get your hands on those. And of course, some suitable chargers for you if you haven't got those already. Thank you all very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll speak to you all next time. Hey, it's Vasco here with another unboxing, and today we're going to be looking at this behemoth, which is the ARRMA, I was going to say Creighton, do it again.